Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the ideal list of symphonies by Bruckner. Yes, Anton Bruckner. You asked for it, so I'm going to give it to you. I'm talking about the 9 canonic symphonies. I am not going to deal with the school symphony, number 00. The preschool symphony, of course, is available on Tinnitus Classics, and I refer you to that video. And symphony number 0, Die Note, Die Noteste, the 0, the Zilch, the Nothing, in D minor, which is a piece of garbage, except for the 2 inner movements have some redeeming qualities. But actually, there is a solution which will resolve all of this, which we will get to at the end of this chat. So let's just start at the beginning. Symphony number 1. Now, Symphony number 1 comes in several versions named after places. There is the original Linz version, then there is the original Linz version, and then there is the Vienna version. And it doesn't make any difference which one you like, just pick one. They are structurally and thematically 100% identical. The only thing that we know about the first is that its name changes depending on where Bruckner was when he tinkered with it. And now we know that there are at least 4 other versions. There's the Salzburg version, there's the Graz version, there's the Mödling version, best of all, recently discovered just about 5 minutes ago, if I'm not mistaken, is the Ringstrasse version, which apparently fell out of Bruckner's pocket one day when he was running around counting mailboxes, which he had a tendency to do, in this case in the Ringstrasse, and it fell into a planter at number 62 Ringstrasse. And there it's been ever since. But some lady was dumping out her flower pot, and there it was. Yet another version of Bruckner's first, which will, of course, be published by the International Bruckner Gesellschaftlicher Kunst Public something, whatever, Wien, in a fabulous, beautiful critical edition. But we don't care. For the first symphony, the one you should get is Tintner on Naxos. This is just a beautiful, sensitive, fresh, and sober. Bruckner was always sober realization of the Linz version of the first symphony, and that is my pick. Because, the whole idea with these ideal cycles, remember, is not that they necessarily be the ultimate one or whatever. It's simply that we create a cycle that has no weak links at all. And that's what I have done. So you're in very good shape with Tintner on the first. Now, we come to symphony number 2. Now, symphony number 2 comes in 3 separate flavors: chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. And the chocolate version, which is the original, also has varieties. For example, there's milk chocolate and dark chocolate, and chocolate with almonds, and chocolate with Crispies, and chocolate with peanuts, and chocolate with coconut. I mean, there's a million different iterations of the original version of the first symphony, all of which are getting worked on systematically by William Carrigan, who is not only doing the million versions that Bruckner wrote, but also the ones that Bruckner didn't write, which adds just so much to our knowledge of the work. So it really makes, again, like the first, who cares? I don't give a damn which version you pick. They all sound the same. They've all got the same tunes. They've all got the same movements. It's just Bruckner's second. And you can mix them and match them however you please. But my choice is Schulte in Chicago. Schulte is a terrific early Bruckner conductor. Why? Because he plays the music fast and exciting. It really does. He just goes for it. And the Chicago Symphony plays fabulously. And there are just no dead spots in these performances. He does 1, 2, and 3. I think he also does 0, even 0, believe it or not. But this is a really smoking number 2. So Schulte is my choice for number 2. And I just think it's great. It's the strawberry version, by the way, in case you were wondering. Now, the third symphony also comes in 3 different sizes in this case. You get the luxury original version, you get the compact second version, and the subcompact first version. Now, the luxury sedan first version it's a terrible gas guzzler. It really is. I mean, it uses up a tremendous amount of fuel, and it's quite inefficient. The best version, and the one Bruckner preferred, was the second version, the compact version. It's still a 4-door compact with a V6 engine. It's got plenty of pep and very good responsiveness. It usually comes with automatic steering and automatic transmission, and if you're lucky, you can get one with air conditioning, power windows, and a very good sound system. So I would go with that version, and the best performance of that version is, here it is, Sinopoli with the Staatskapelle Dresden. This is really, it was the 1877 version technically, but I like my way better. Compact, V6, absolutely great. All the bells and whistles, and you can get this with manufacturers financing on excellent terms today because interest rates are quite low. Sinopoli's Dresden Bruckner 3 is fabulous. It was the first Bruckner recording he made. And, as so often with Sinopoli, it was the same thing with Mahler. He did that really good Mahler 5. Everything after that was very iffy, very on again, off again. And you really kind of wonder why, if you could do one thing really, really, really well, why you feel any necessity to go on and do more not as well. But that happens time and time again, and especially it happened in the 80s and 90s when stuff was just getting recorded willy-nilly. So Sinopoli for the third, really, really good. If you could still get it separately, I know it's downloadable separately. It's well worth having. It really is. Number 4. Oh, well, 4 is known as the Lego Symphony because it just comes in so many different pieces. There's the original version, then there's the revised version with the scherzo and the new scherzo, and then there's a totally separate version of the finale called Volksfest. It's like a Lego, and you can take the pieces and build them any way you want. And so the version to get is not the original version because the original scherzo really, really sucks. It's like a Lego where the pieces are, how sometimes people make Legos and the pieces don't really fit. They're kind of awkward and you see like cracks and seams and things. That's the original version of the Fourth Symphony. The revised version is much better. And the one to get is Barenboim Chicago. Why? Because the brass playing is just so blasted incredible. The scherzo is insane, exciting beyond belief, and the performance is just fresh and lively, and it has so much spontaneity. It's absolutely wonderful. It's one of the greatest things Barenboim ever did, and he didn't come anywhere near it in his 10 or 12 dozen remakes of the Bruckner symphonies. This is the one to get. Barenboim for the fourth. Number 5. Oh, there's only one version of number 5. It's unique, thank God. And I have chosen for number 5, Wolfgang Sawallisch on Orfeo. This is with the Bayerisches Staatsorchestra. This is just such a jolly old German performance. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It is sensitive and effortless, and the rhythm is just a little bit on the not clinical side, especially in the first movement, which is an introduction to the rest of the symphony. It basically goes nowhere, nothing happens in it. So it has to be played with a certain amount of genial relaxation, and this is just perfect. The scherzo too. It's just a wonderful performance, and the Bavarian State Orchestra here plays the finale incredibly well. In the final chorale, which has to be perfect because that's where everything is leading for an hour and 15 minutes. And if that final chorale isn't just fantastic, then you might as well not even waste your time with this thing at all. That final chorale goes so well here because the brass timbres are so beautifully differentiated. So you hear the different elements of the chorale, and you hear the trombones going dump, bump, bum, ba-dum, bum. You want to hear all the rhythm and all the detail that Bruckner builds into it, and you do hear. It's absolutely wonderful, very naturally recorded in a spacious acoustic, an effortless, beautiful performance of what can be Bruckner's most difficult and clunky sounding symphony to interpret. Sawallisch deserves a heap of credit for doing it so well. So Sawallisch on Orfeo, it's magnificent, trust me. Number 6. There's also only one version of number 6. Hooray! And, this is a classic, this performance. But I just feel that in some ways it has never been matched and certainly never imitated. Klemperer on Warner, which used to be EMI. This is such a great Bruckner Sixth. One of the most remarkable things about it is that he plays the quick music slowly and the slow music quickly, which completely changes our perception of the piece, but it has such balance and architectural strength, and you hear the woodwind parts really forward, and there's a lot of really good woodwind writing in this piece that Bruckner sneaks in there in various places, especially in the scherzo and finale. And again, this is a performance that I think in some ways has never been matched. There are different performances, ones that sound completely different aesthetically, but as a realization of the work, this came as a shock, because at the time that Klemperer recorded this, in the 1960s, nobody was playing Bruckner Sixth. It was sort of a stepchild symphony, and he just played it like it was the greatest piece of music in the world. And you know what? It just might be in his hands. It is spectacular. Number 7. Also, thank God, only one version, except it can either have the cymbal and triangle roll and the timpani underneath it in the adagio, or you can leave them out. And as with all of these other choices, it's just a personal preference. It makes no difference at all. I kind of like having the percussion, not because I'm a percussionist, but because I think it's legitimate. And I think it adds a little pizzazz to that climax, which is one of the great climaxes in all of music. It is such a transcendental moment. And for transcendental fabulousness, I go with Chailly, with the Berlin, what was it, those days, Deutsche Symphony Orchestra Berlin in those days. And boy, oh boy, is this a beautiful performance. All of those glowing moments, the coda of the first movement and the dark Wagner tubas and the adagio, these are the kinds of things that you really want to hear. And he milks them for all they're worth. The tempos are a little bit on the slow side, not as crazy slow as some people play it these days, but it's really a fantastic performance of the 7th. It was lauded and recognized as masterful from the day that it was issued, and it has still come out sounding fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. Probably the best Bruckner that Chailly ever did as well. So, Chailly. Okay, number 8. Well, number 8 also comes in 2 varieties. There is the maternity size, which is sort of loose and baggy and ill-fitting, and it obscures the form below. And then there's the revision, which is the lycra model. It's clingy and sticks in a wonderfully form-fitting way to the body of the music. It's quite marvelous. You'll always want lycra. Do not get maternity. You will never use it. You will never listen to it. Once the baby hatches or whatever happens to it, you'll never take it out again. I'm serious. You want lycra all the time. And my choice for the 8th Symphony is the Günter Wand live from Lubeck Cathedral with the NDR Symphony Orchestra. This is still a very, very special Bruckner experience. It really is. Again, it's another performance that everyone has recognized as transcendently great from the moment it came out. I really haven't found anybody who dislikes this. And I mean, there are people who like other versions better, of course, but this is generally acknowledged to be a truly great Bruckner Eighth. You can't do better, and it is just marvelous. And if you're wondering what Bruckner really sounds like in a cathedral, when it doesn't sound like he's in a cathedral, this is the one you need. By that I mean it has the necessary clarity. You also get the reverb, but somehow the engineers contrived to create a realistic and a transparent sound picture while the music is playing, which is, thank God. Because Bruckner's symphonies are always called cathedrals and sounds and all of that stuff, because it sounds really good when you say it, but they sound horrible in cathedrals as a rule, because there's a lot of contrapuntal detail in them, and a 5-minute reverberation, or whatever it is, just obscures all of that detail. All you hear is mud. So this gives you the benefits of having a cathedral acoustic without any of the mud. It's lycra, not maternity. Symphony number 9. Now, I did individual talks on all of these symphonies. And so it's really very simple to go back and see, the entire list of all of the different pieces, all of the different performances that I mentioned, and, compare sort of relatively to see how they stack up. I really dislike the fragmentary finale of the Ninth. I do not recommend any versions of it. I think that it's ugly music. I think that Bruckner was sick, that he was not up to it, that no matter what he did, it leaves the symphony in a more puzzling state than when you simply leave it out entirely. The symphony works perfectly well in 3 movements, and that is a musical fact, which is rather difficult to argue with. Yes, we know Bruckner planned a finale, but given the fact that Bruckner had issues trying to bang his finales into shape, it is completely irrational and unreasonable to assume that what he left represents anything close to what the finale finally would have been. So I disregard any effort at completing it, and I go with the 3-movement Ninth, and the performance I choose is Joachim, again with the Staatskapelle Dresden. Why? Because it is simply the most savage, expressionistic, but also spiritually rapturous, luminous recording. It's so gorgeous. You know what I'm talking about. There's that moment in the finale the Adagio, where the string chorale comes in suddenly, and holy crap, the heavens just open in this performance. It's extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Magnificently played, fabulously recorded, and the scherzo. The scherzo is primal. Absolutely primal in its pounding intensity. The Rite of Spring has nothing on Joachim's performance of the scherzo of Bruckner's Ninth. So that's what I would do for Bruckner's Ninth. Now, you may think at this point we've come to the end, but we haven't. The reason is because some of you have also asked me to do a talk on Bruckner's cycles. I'm afraid that's impossible. It's impossible for a bunch of reasons. First of all, there are so many of them. Second of all, there are so many new ones coming out all the time. And Gergiev just did one. Of all people, Gergiev, and Telemann is doing a new one, and then Andres Nelson's is doing one, and every 5 minutes it seems a new Bruckner cycle comes out, and I don't see any point in doing a talk about Bruckner cycles and have it be so completely out of date the minute I do it. It just the thought of it just kind of irritates me, because it's a heck of a lot of work to put all this stuff together, and to have it simply be obsolete because of the new stuff coming out seems to me pointless. So I will review those new sets as they come, and you've already gathered there are some very fine box sets here that I've already talked about, and also in the discussions of the individual symphonies. The other reason not to do complete sets is because none of them are perfect. There is no complete set that gives you the level of consistent quality that I have just given you in this talk on the ideal Bruckner symphonies. However, there is one exception, and I'm going to mention it now because there is one Bruckner cycle that has absolutely no bad performances. All of them are terrific. All of them sustain the same high level. And that one is Skrovichevsky on Ohms. This is quite simply the best Bruckner cycle out there, hands down. If you want to get a Bruckner cycle in a box, I'm not going to do a big harangue about the bazillion Bruckner cycles that are out there. Just get Skrovichevsky, because not only do you get the 9 canonic symphonies, but you also get the student symphony, the Schul symphony, Symphony 00, whatever you call it, even though it sounds like a worthless piece of garbage, you get it. And you get the overture in G minor, and you get the symphony number 0, and you get a string orchestra version of the Adagio from the string quintet. How's that for a box of Bruckner? So you get the whole kit and caboodle, and there is not a single poor performance, not even a single less than very good performance in this entire box. If you're looking for a Bruckner cycle, with all the right versions, or plausible versions, shall we say, all the plausible versions, and you can't do better. You just can't do better than Skrovichevsky on Ohms. So I really would recommend that one for the entire batch, if you want to get the entire batch. And that gives you really an ideal Bruckner cycle drawn from different performances by different conductors, but also the ideal box, one that has never been matched by anybody else. Really, folks, nobody else comes close to Skrovichevsky. So you should have it anyway as your sort of reference library edition, and then build up around that other performances by other conductors. That's my suggestion. And with that, we come to the end of the ideal Bruckner symphony cycle. And I think perhaps now it's time to give the poor dear man a little bit of a rest, at least for a while, because we've covered every single symphony individually, and we've covered them collectively. And maybe we'll do some more choral works or his sacred works like the motets. They're gorgeous. But as far as Bruckner symphonies go, I think we've just about done everything we can do. I'm so excited. I hope you are too. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.